I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Today we're reading from the book of 2 Kings, chapter 2, and let's focus on verses 23 through 25. From there, Elisha went up to Bethel, and as he was walking up the path, some young men came out of the city, and they harassed him, chanting, "Go up, Baldy! Go up, Baldy!" He turned around and looked at them, and he cursed them in the name of the Lord. And then 2 female bears came out of the woods and mauled 42 of the youths. From there, Elisha went to Mount Carmel, and then he returned to Samaria. Well, the presence of miracles in the Bible inevitably leads people to one of two extremes. On one hand, some people deny that the miracles of the Bible ever took place. As far as they're concerned, God has left the world to operate completely on its basic natural laws. Of course, this view attacks the very heart and soul of what it means to follow Jesus, because it denies the testimony of Scripture and the Bible's message of redemption. If there is no possibility of miracles, well, that would mean that Jesus was not God in the flesh, and that He didn't rise from the grave. And if these miracles are not true, well, then there's no eternal salvation. But the other extreme about miracles is to suggest that miracles should be commonplace. It should happen all the time for believers. It's just an ongoing miraculous experience. Just how the miraculous can be common and still be called miraculous is a bit of a puzzle. Those who hold this position fail to recognize that the miracles of the Bible are not spread evenly throughout Scripture. Biblical miracles are separated in clusters. You see them under Moses when the Lord was delivering Israel from Egypt and He was establishing her as a nation. You see them during the ministries of Elijah and Elisha, and then you see them during the Babylonian captivity of the Jews, during the ministry of the Messiah, Jesus, and shortly after His ascension during the age of the apostles. And then you see them in the Bible in the last days. Each of these clusters occurred at a time of great crisis or a time of great transition, always for the good of God's people and with the intent of furthering God's plan of redemption. Many so-called miracles today seem more in the nature of personal luxury from the perspective of making life more comfortable for certain individuals. God sent Elijah and Elisha to stop the spiritual decline of Israel and to draw the people of God back to God. God allowed them to perform miracles to publicly confirm their calling so that people would listen to their message. Immediately after the Lord took Elijah, He established Elijah's prophetic office through Elisha with 2 miracles, healing the waters at Jericho and cursing a group of rebellious boys. Now, the first miracle illustrated the nature of true salvation. Accursed Jericho repented, and they sought the Lord's mercy, and then they obtained it. And the second miracle, which we read about earlier, shows how the formerly blessed town of Bethel incurred judgment upon itself by turning away from the Lord to worship idols. And it could be that Elisha had begun his ministry by taking a vow to the Lord. Hence, he was shaving his head. The boys, therefore, would have been mocking his piety, perhaps provoking him so that they could see him perform some kind of sign. And what a sign they received. There is no indication that any of the boys were killed, by the way, only mauled, but that's still a hard lesson. So let this act as a reminder to approach God humbly and to live reverently, because the Lord can be very creative when He chooses to teach a hard lesson to His rebellious kids. I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Groundworks Ministries operates entirely through financial donations from faithful people like you. And if you're being ministered to through the daily teaching of Groundworks Ministries, and you'd like to help us lead God's people back to the Bible, would you consider donating to Groundworks Ministries today? Because we need your support now more than ever. Donating is secure and it's easy at our website. Check us out at groundworksministries.com.